Under the glitz of 1970s Hollywood, a rising star was gradually fading. At her peak, Ali MacGraw had everything: an influential husband, critical accolades, and global exposure. One man changed her life. She didn't pursue controversy, but more enticing, absorbing. After the affair, more happened. It would ruin her marriage, silence her career, and leave people wondering how someone so conspicuous could disappear so totally. A knock on her door when Cool entered begins her disturbing and intriguing story. Life changed forever for Ali MacGraw. Day Steve McQueen brought the Getaway script into her universe. She was married to powerful Paramount executive Robert Evans and riding a tide of success after her winning performance in Love Story. Yet nothing in her perfectly organized life prepared her for McQueen's powerful, unexpected, and seductive presence. Ali later acknowledged in an interview that he knew he was in trouble when he spotted him. He had an uncanny ability to disrupt a room's air and draw people in. Not immune, she wasn't ready for what followed. On the 1972 set of The Getaway, they clicked immediately. Not just her co-star, McQueen. He instantly captivated her, gradually undoing her. Backstage, their chemistry led to an affair that ended her marriage to Evans. Ali left Robert emotionally, not rationally. Dropping everything, I followed Steve. It surrendered to passion, curiosity, and possibly a wish to be viewed differently. McQueen was real and unsafe. Two things are lacking from her Hollywood existence. They wed in 1973. The outside world sees them as a couple. Rebellious, bloomy action hero and lovely, intense, thoughtful woman. The emotional stream from under was unseen by the world. Unresolved McQueen trauma. Ali is gradually becoming a woman eager to change for love. She had left her marriage and a promising career at its peak. Such flair makes tabloid headlines, but Ali would later struggle to define or understand the personal cost. Years later, Ali would recall McQueen's film offer at her door. It was a conflict between career and romance, she said. The fact that he didn't just introduce a role to play would leave a shift in relations too deep to document. This started an alliance that cleaned up her public image and replaced it with a consuming reality. Steve McQueen was a drama, but it was also about underlying foundations that would mold her life for better or worse. Love for Steve was just the start. To live with him was another matter. Life with Steve McQueen in Malibu seemed like a dream come true. Ali MacGraw called their seaside home a charming escape from Hollywood. The two avoided industry upheaval with simple, unfamous buddies. It was leisurely and earthy, with barefoot mornings on the sand, sunset barbecues, and beer-fueled stargazing. In 2024, Ali tenderly remembered those early days when we were joyful. They were comfortable in seclusion, and she thought she had found something real. The serene exterior belied a shifting balance. He craved control, and his surroundings and interactions shaped their family life. He had always avoided celebrity, but his privacy demands were emotional. In addition to seclusion, he sought submission. In order to save the relationship, Ali adapted. She said she went all out as a chef, cleaner, and simple woman, displaying her shyness to satisfy his expectations. She no longer had scripts, fashion shoots, or public appearances. The emotional toll of seclusion quickly became apparent. The gorgeous world rested but did not ignore strife. McQueen's possessiveness and instability, combined with alcoholism, require frequent fights to turn their sanctuary into a war. Ali also drank regularly, turning calm evenings into stress and emotional withdrawals. Their beach home was no longer safe. They were both disappearing into false roles. Ali found the Malibu lifestyle disillusioning later. The steady breakdown of her identity, not a new beginning. The lack of public pressure hid her willingness to shrink to please McQueen. With that limiting of self, the lady who once captivated audiences faded into a peacekeeper. Beaches, oceans, and bonfires formed a setting for a life of conditional love and compromised identity. To the world, Steve McQueen was cool, a Hollywood star whose steely look and anti-establishment roles caught a generation's rebellious spirit. A man badly hurt by a history of emotional neglect was behind the casual swagger. Before enrolling him in a rehabilitation school for problematic boys, McQueen's mother, an alcoholic and unstable, sent him to live with relatives when his father disappeared when he was a toddler. Early traumas left him with a deep suspicion of relationships and a compulsion to dominate his environment. Ali MacGraw later described his psychological baggage entering the Avira relationship as being so flawed. Ali's supposed mystery and independence became emotional armor. She was often tense due to McQueen's mood swings. He was strong and moral, but she also saw his suspicion, jealousy, and emotional retreat. She told People in 2018 that he was always dangerous. His bad boy charm went down well in public but was uncomfortable in private. Ali learned to manage his moods by watching her words and actions to avoid provoking his fears. He was loved more than affectionately. There was continual emotional calculation. McQueen gained control as their relationship progressed. He married Ali in 1973 after insisting on a prenup and advised her to quit acting. These demands were not requests. They were an attempt to impose some control over her life, based on a horrific fear of being defenseless or overshadowed. In an intimate weekly conversation, Ali admitted she shrank for him. To please the relationship, which could not tolerate equality, she sacrificed her work and voice. McQueen perceived control as protection. Ali gradually lost herself for emotional survival. Ali began to realize that McQueen's dominance was again a disguise. It was paradoxical that a man afraid of abandonment drove people away. She saw a wounded guy behind his bombastic charm, never quite healed. That insight helped explain, but it didn't ease living with him. Passionate yet never free, their love. It felt like an emotional workout. It was too late for Ali to save anything. A form of truth that shaped her processing of their years together after he died. During her peak stardom, Ali MacGraw had the world at her feet. Her roles in Goodbye, Columbus, and Love Story made her one of Hollywood's most bankable and popular actresses. Steve McQueen put her at a crossroads between personal passion and professional purpose. Although he admired her talent, McQueen refused to share the spotlight. Ali later said he didn't want me to work, which changed their power dynamic early on. Her choice was stark. Keep her career going or quit. Resemble McQueen's perfect partner. Ali decided quickly and willingly. She divorced Robert Evans, who had championed her ability, and turned down film offers, leaving the Hollywood machine that had just begun to welcome her. She immersed herself in domestic life. Focused on McQueen and her son Josh, who she had with Evans. The change was abrupt. Immediately and completely. In a 2024 Closer Weekly interview, she said she was a devoted chef, cleaner, and simple woman. This self-imposed change went beyond quieting down. It required giving up her freedom to make the partnership work. Personal and professional consequences of surrender. McQueen regarded Ali's living space as possessive, which extended to her expression. His jealousy increased anytime she interacted with other males, official or informal. While living a life of obvious flirtation and indulgence, Ali left the limelight but didn't return or embrace it. It increased their unbalance. She confessed, reflecting on how she fundamentally changed herself to maintain peace. Under that endeavor, her voice was steadily being stifled. The expense of self-erasure became apparent in the late 1970s. Her job stagnated, she lost confidence, and she almost lost her identity. Ali's emotional damage from someone else's boundaries was revealed in 1977 when the marriage ended. The 1980 death of McQueen compounded it, as she missed the guy who had loved her and realized she had sacrificed so much without being seen. After entering treatment for alcoholism and love addiction, Ali faced difficult truths. Controversy over what she had given up and why started her long return. Absence of Ali MacGraw. Ali MacGraw lost herself gradually after her marriage to Steve McQueen. Formerly admired for her honesty and on-screen presence, she retired to a private existence that was far from the world she formerly commanded. Once considered the epitome of natural elegance, she now altered every aspect of her being to fit McQueen's standards. Right from the start, I never showed him who I was, she later said, revealing how deeply she had repressed her actual self to maintain the connection. External change occurred. Her life rhythm reflected it. McQueen forced her to quit, trade writing for chores, and hide from Hollywood politics. In their private Malibu beach home, she cooked, cleaned, and hosted. This Ali hadn't won prizes or adorned magazine covers. That person was made to avoid conflict. Manage McQueen's insecurities. In order to meet his expectations, she built a false ego. It sacrificed innovation, independence, and self-expression. With time, the emotional burden of losing my identity grew. McQueen's jealousy and possessiveness often caused friction with others, especially men. Ali was confined to the house and McQueen's restrictions. Free expression was suppressed along with outside contact. Passion's fervor induced emotional suppression in the partnership. From that heady and charming woman, soon disappeared from Hollywood screens, locked and withering in shadow under a man whose grief required regular soothing. A few years after McQueen's death and her rehabilitation from addiction, Ali began to realize her identity loss. She discovered the tendencies that had caused her silence through therapy and life analysis. While maintaining calm, it couldn't stop what was coming. Speedy turbulence. A blazing, all-consuming affair between Ali MacGraw and Steve McQueen ended in catastrophe. Personal insecurities, substance misuse, and unresolved emotional traumas poisoned their passion. Once a refuge from celebrity, their Malibu house became a source of strife. "We were both drinking too much," Ali revealed, which weakened their conversation and sharpened their tempers. Shouting bouts, power battles, and emotional standoffs often turned calm moments into lasting scars. Due to his early neglect, McQueen's jealousy grew. Ali remembered how a casual glance at another man could irritate him. However, the contradiction was obvious. Although he strictly monitored Ali's actions, McQueen flirted often. "It was hard to predict his next move," she recalled, expressing the psychological toll of living with a moody person. His charisma first attracted her, but his unpredictability caused emotional weariness that no compromise could fix. Their shattered marriage was exacerbated by infidelity. Both McQueen and MacGraw had infidelity as indicators of emotional detachment, not rebellion. Rumors regarding McQueen's affairs, especially with ladies on site, abounded. Ali's gentle revelation of infidelity showed how far she had gone from her younger self. The silence was numbing. Next was numbness. All that remained was escape. Tension rose in 1977. Her identity-defining connection was now destroying her. That year, a separation marked the end of a love that had scorched both ends for too long. 3 years later, McQueen died of cancer at 50 while Ali struggled with a happy-sad relationship. She later called these moments a roller coaster that went out of control before either had the fortitude or clarity to get off. Unfixable break. In 1977, Ali MacGraw and Steve McQueen's marriage ended. Their love was now buried under years of conflict, mistrust, and emotional devastation. Ali was exhausted after sacrificing her profession, independence, and individuality. "I became a lady I believed he desired," she later said. A terrible realization of how far she had strayed from her own self. The relationship's emotional demands overwhelmed her efforts to placate McQueen's control. The magnetic tie between them was unsustainable. Letting go of McQueen wasn't just about divorce. Reclaiming what was left of herself. The movie star who had graced magazine covers and film premieres was now unemployed and forgotten by an industry that had moved on. Ali had neglected her career to be a wife and mother under McQueen's orders for years. When she left her partner, she grieved for a partner and the loss of her work self-confidence and dreams. "Everything I thought was romantic about our life became claustrophobic and impossible," she later said, speaking to the emotional collapse that had slowly engulfed her. The separation had brought relief, but was quickly followed by the shadow of McQueen's illness. In 1979, he was diagnosed with pleural mesothelioma, a rare and aggressive cancer that has an established correlation of causation with asbestos. His health rapidly deteriorated, and he passed away in November 1980 at 50 years of age. Ali was heartbroken. Although they had separated, things had never really been done between them. There was never really closure, she reflected. The death marked the end of a turbulent chapter and stole from her the opportunity to resolve questions, pains, and unresolved feelings about the relationship. In the wake of McQueen's death, Ali entered a soul-cleansing period. With grief and a fractured sense of identity, she was left to spiral. Depression and alcoholism inundated her as layers of emotional suppression and self-sacrifice added to the burden. Into the Betty Ford Center, she determined to go. That decision marked the true beginning of her healing. Here she began to address not only her addiction, but also all those years of abandonment, love addiction, and loss of self that characterized her relationship with McQueen. The break may have been legally final in 1977, but emotional healing was another story that would take more than a few decades, and every step required a refreshingly lucid sense of honesty before she would even begin to rebuild a life. The death that haunted her. Steve McQueen's death on November 7, 1980 was both sudden and symbolic. The abrupt end of a man who had lived at full throttle and burned through life as fiercely as he had through fame. Diagnosed just a year prior with pleural mesothelioma, an aggressive cancer tied to asbestos exposure, McQueen sought treatment in Mexico after exhausting options in the U.S. He died shortly after undergoing experimental surgery, leaving behind not only a cinematic legacy, but a wake of unfinished emotional business, especially for Ali MacGraw. Although they had divorced in 1978, his death reverberated through her in a way that surprised even her. There was never really closure, she later said, capturing the ache of words left unsaid and pain left unprocessed. Despite the turmoil of their marriage, Ali never denied the depth of her love for McQueen. Theirs had been a relationship of intensity, thrilling and consuming, but also unbalanced and bruising. His passing stirred not only grief, but a cascade of unresolved emotions that she had long buried. Guilt over the compromises she made, sorrow over the parts of herself she'd lost, and confusion about the man who could be both tender and terrifying. "I was so in love with him," she admitted, even as she acknowledged the damage that love had done. It was this emotional complexity, love entwined with regret, that haunted her after his death. In many ways, McQueen's death forced Ali to come to terms with what their relationship actually cost her. It was not simply losing a man. It was about the loss of illusions. Ali had, in a way, thought that her relationship, chaotic as it might be, could be fixed or understood over time. His death closed that door forever. She began to reflect upon not just who he was, but who she became in his presence. "I made myself disappear in that marriage," she later said. A profound statement attesting to the emotional void she was left with when he left. His death became a lens through which she began to assess bits and pieces of herself that she had given up to be with him. Up until many years later, he hovered in and about Ali's life as a ghost without being romantic about it. He became one of the few reminders of this love story that had no resolution she could think of. She would eventually find her peace in the quiet rhythms of her later life. But the memories of their years together, both beautiful and bruising, would never completely leave her. She called the relationship a roller coaster. And when his death brought it to a sudden halt, the deafening quiet that followed was almost worse than the tumult. The fallout of loving Steve. After Steve McQueen died in 1980, Ali MacGraw entered one of the most emotionally complex chapters of her life. From the outside, she had once embodied the perfect Hollywood fairy tale. Rapid success, critical acclaim, and marriage to two of the most influential men in the film industry. But after the dust settled, Ali found herself grappling with the emotional debris left behind. She was no longer the star who had commanded box offices, but a woman who had dimmed her own light for love and was now unsure of how to find her way back. The public may have remembered her as the elegant actress from Love Story, but she barely recognized that woman anymore. Her grief over McQueen's passing brought a new layer of reckoning. Without the distraction of his powerful presence, Ali was left alone with a profound emptiness. The result of years spent people-pleasing, adapting, and performing emotional gymnastics to preserve love at all costs. She admitted in retrospect that she had created a version of herself she believed would appeal to McQueen, highlighting how her true identity had been suppressed. Not only throughout their marriage, but also in the difficult years that followed, as she struggled to navigate life in the aftermath of their relationship. The emotional toll had outlived the relationship itself, and with her career having long stalled, Ali found herself aimless and unanchored. A major choice in her life was made when Bay checked herself into the Betty Ford Center in 1985. The initial diagnosis of an alcohol problem quickly turned into a much more profound and serious experience. A full confrontation with patterns that had emotionally and culturally governed her life for decades. Although self-abandonment usually occurred in romantic relationships, she traced its roots much more centrally into her childhood when she witnessed her father's alcoholic rage, which set up her future as a chronic pleaser. As she told Closer Weekly, "I would demand outrageously from most people, every single one of them in a room liking me." And so it became the cornerstone of her healing, that painful yet liberating awareness of how the need to be loved has routinely taken people away from themselves. In the 1990s, walking out of Hollywood was not a retreat. It was a reclamation. She would be reconnecting in Tezuque, New Mexico. Location, beauty, and privacy also afforded emotional space to find herself beyond fame, addiction, or relationships. Here, surrounded by nature and a community rooting Ali's quiet life and authenticity, she painted, gardened, and engaged herself in spiritual practices. In time, she began to recreate success not as applause in headlines, but as self-respect and peace. Just when it seemed she had lost herself for good, life led her somewhere she never imagined. Healing beyond the king of cool. Today, Ali MacGraw lives a life defined not by stardom or scandal, but by stillness and intention. Her home in Tezuque, New Mexico, a serene village north of Santa Fe, offers the opposite of the Hollywood spotlight she once occupied. With its expansive skies, creative community, and natural beauty, it's a place where she has found grounding. "I'm very involved with the community. I have a life that makes me happy," she said in a 2024 Closer Weekly interview. Instead of a managed image, she now pursues art, gardening, animal welfare, and spiritual meditation. She heard herself again in the desert silence. Transformation took time. Decades of treatment, contemplation, and hard-won realizations led to it. Her addiction recovery went beyond sobriety. Her lifelong demand for validation had to be untangled. As the daughter of a volatile alcoholic father and a volatile household, Allie believed her worth was related to keeping the peace, being nice, and being loved at all costs. McQueen's charm easily suited that unsettled emotional structure. However, maturity and clarity allowed her to see her tendencies and break them. I finally feel comfortable in my costume. Her own skin, she thought, suggesting that she had outgrown the urge to be anyone else. Still, Steve McQueen will be part of her history. He shall define her no longer. She speaks about him with remarkable honesty, grieving his loss with sympathy and insight. His tragic death changed her self-understanding. Many believe that ending that relationship was the start of her true life, when she could be present without being played. Non-self-sacrificing love that disappears into someone else's shadow. Thanks for viewing. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment if Ali MacGraw's story moved you. We want your input. Your biggest surprise? Should we next discuss? Don't move. To discover Hollywood's most famous staircases secrets, click the next video.